So we were supposed to have a break, but we ran a little bit over. So what I think we're going to do is just go directly into the next session, which is presented by Charlotte Mount, Chloe, and Chloe Cinch, and Joseph Sutter, advocating as a young adult, Teal on the Hill and beyond.
Okay.
So first, my name is Charlotte, and I'm 20. So first question is, why should teens and young adults be involved in advocacy? Who wants to start? Answer.
I'll start on this one. I believe that teens and young adults should be involved in advocacy because we're the future of the SBA. So our opinions and what we say and what we do are going to pave the way for the next generation of kids with spina bifida.
It's important to be involved in advocacy is because you have to do it for the rest of your life, and not just at doctor's appointments, which is a given, but also at like the job setting. And just when you're out in the community, you're also going to have to advocate for yourself. Because sadly, the world isn't as accessible as we would like it to be. And in order for it to be more accessible, we have to make waves.
That's very well said. I agree with you. And to piggyback off of that, I think that teens and young adults should advocate because if we don't make noise and we don't express what we need, there's a big chance that we might not get it. So the next question that we have is, I would like to know why you guys advocate.
I'll go, I guess. I advocate so that I can make life better for myself and everyone with spina bifida, all those older than me and younger than me, and all future generations. So yeah, I think, and whether that be medical care or anything else.
Very well said.
To piggyback on what she said, I believe that it is important to advocate for yourself, and yeah, basically exactly what she said.
And I would like to say something. So just to give you kind of a background, because my story is a little bit similar to Shoshana's, where we found out after I was born that I had spina bifida. But for reference, I got my surgery done at Emory University back in 1998 before Children's Healthcare of Atlanta was formed. So yeah, I'm old basically. But after like a year of being monitored, my neurosurgeon said I needed like PT, but he said I walked away without bladder problems and my cord would never retether. And my 5th grade year, I started, wetting myself and we couldn't figure out what was going on. And basically, my mom took me to her OBGYN and they couldn't figure it out and they wanted to do a pap smear, which, ugh. And then basically my 9th grade year, I read about on social media about a girl who had spina bifida and had bladder problems. And I told my parents like, hey, I may be retethered. I need to get looked at. But they didn't believe me. And it took like some huge convincing. And finally, after I left school, they agreed for me to go somewhere. But there was no clinic in my state that, the only clinic we have is a peds clinic. So I advocate for those that, because I see some people in the chat that I know, and I'll be seeing this Friday. So, hey, AJ, hey, Denise, but I am literally, you know, I fly up to Hershey to get my medical care, and I'm literally flying up Thursday, like the day after Teal on the Hill, like 2 days after, but I am, um, you know, I'm doing that, and I feel blessed that I'm able to go out of state and get care, but not a lot of people are able to. And that's one of the things I feel incredibly guilty about. But it's a constant advocating battle, I feel like, with, you know, my family as to why I need this care. And also having to advocate when they're in denial of certain things is a huge thing that takes a huge mental toll out of my body as well. Yeah. Mhm. All right, the third question. So we're going to change it up a little bit because this is my first year ever of doing Teal on the Hill, and therefore I cannot answer this question, but everyone else in the room can. Lucky them. So the third one, I mean, what's your experience in meetings with members of Congress? Does anyone want to start, or do y'all want me to pick someone?
I'll start. I like your enthusiasm.
Charlotte.
I think my experience, so I've been attending Teal on the Hill every year since 2019, which was the second annual Teal on the Hill. And in 2019, it was in person. And then in 2020, it's moved to virtual and been virtual every year since. And in 2019, I walked into a room with a lot of other people spent for the first time, and it was amazing. And then I got to walk around. I'm fully ambulatory, so I was walking. I got to walk around Capitol Hill and go into the office buildings and meet with these people in person. Now, every year since I've been virtual, so I've met in the virtual Zoom meeting rooms, and it's really cool because we get to have a lot more people that we wouldn't have in person because they wouldn't be able to travel for various reasons. And so yeah, and I think also, and it's always interesting too because we meet with the staffers and not the reps themselves. And you might see a picture of staffer, might expect one person of the elected official, expect one person, but then you get someone who's a little bit older than me, and you learn that people in their 20s run the hill. Because it's the staffers who meet with the people and get all this information from a whole bunch of different people to bring back to the boss and say, hey, I met with this person. Here's what I think you should do, or here's the information for you to make a decision on what to do, on what this person or this group is asking. So you will very likely be meeting with people who may be a lot younger than you think. I know, like, sometime recently, someone was poking fun at me because they said something about 20-year-olds, and I'm 20, so they started poking a little bit of fun at me. So, but yeah, that's my experience at Teal on the Hill.
To piggyback off of what Charlotte said, my first year for Teal on the Hill was the same year as hers. And I also went into that room and I had just this reaction of thinking everything would be okay because I had never seen so many people like me. And in my head, I thought I was the only one going through what I was. And then through it being in person, it was such a powerful thing because all these other people were going around differently. They were somewhere in wheelchairs. I had a crutch at the time. You saw all these people going differently, and it just made this strong message to the staffers that we all have spina bifida, but we all get around differently. And yeah,
So I just started doing Teal on the Hill. This is my third year now, I believe, third or fourth. But it's definitely been an impactful thing for me because it showed me that wow, there's a group of people for one that are like me. Because before I'd started doing this, I'd never met anybody. Well, never really met anybody with spina bifida. I'd heard of people having it. There was a kid that was actually in the same hospital as me, born like the same week as me that had it. But obviously that was, I didn't know them. But I think uh other than Teal on the Hill, I don't have a whole lot of experience with talking to people in Congress, but I've done it a few times now, so I'm a little bit more comfortable with talking to them because, like Shoshana was saying, most of them are my age, even sometimes a little bit younger, depending, a little bit younger, a little bit older, and it's almost like you're talking to a professional, but you're talking to somebody that kind of gets it in a way.
I believe Charlotte has the next question.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about this, but we'll go into it even more. What are the benefits of capitalizing on your age?
So I can start off with this one. Especially in the past couple years, I was, I still am, but a big part of my little spiel was that I'm transferring into adult care and the issues that I'm having with that. So by saying I'm 17 right now, I'm 19, but 2 years ago I was 17. I'm 17 right now. Soon I have to transition to adult care, and I have a lot of worries that my doctors won't know about spina bifida. And by mentioning that, it kind of puts it into perspective what I was going through for these staffers.
Okay, I'd say the benefit of capitalizing on your age is to start when you're very young, just to be able to go out and do things that you want to do in life. Like you're not going to be able to like do some of the things unless if you advocate. So like for instance, if I'm walking to my local Raising Cane's and I see that there's no ramp at Raising Cane's and I can only get in through steps, then I should advocate, for that. And I'll give like an example, but like this is unrelated to spina bifida, but I'm also hard of hearing and I get my hearing tested every year. And this practice that I've been going to for like 20 plus years, they got a new audiologist and she was literally the worst audiologist I've ever been to the point where I had to file grievance on her and I never went back. And it was a difficult decision that I had to make, but in the end, I'm really glad that I did that because there are a bunch of older people that, aren't able to speak up for themselves because that's what you mainly see in the media. And I wanted to be those voice for those people. So it doesn't matter if you're young, like if you're 2 or you're 92, you can still make a difference no matter your age.
Very well said.
Thank you.
So if no one else has anything to add, our next question is, what are some of the ways you guys have advocated for yourself in a medical setting?
I don't mean to interrupt, but I think we skipped over one. What is a way you've had to advocate for yourself in your personal life?
No, I believe that's next.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that then.
You're okay, don't worry.
So in the medical setting, so I was very like afraid of this per se, but I knew it was getting harder for me to keep pace with my peers. I knew that, I had wanted a wheelchair, but I knew from all the like quote unquote horror stories that I've read on the internet that it's either the parents or it's the doctor that doesn't think that you need a wheelchair. But the thing that they don't realize is it's, kind of there's the social, there's the medical, and like the personal model. And all three of those, they don't really clash sometimes. And a lot of people don't understand that. And, the biggest thing is I was afraid my doctors were going to say no. So I was very strategic as to who in clinic I spoke to about like the wheelchair. Like the only person I didn't tell was like the physical therapist there, but I told everyone else, and everybody else was really receptive to me needing one. I have a manual foldable one right now, but to be honest, I had told them about it, and my mom wasn't really on board with all of this. But she, you know, and there was some like quote unquote like fighting about it, and I didn't like speak to her for a while and locked myself in my room. But honestly, it was one of like the best decisions I've ever made. I ended up speaking to my physical therapist here in Atlanta about it, and she was very on board with it. And she spoke to my mom about it. And because she used to be a neuro rehab physical therapist, in an inpatient hospital, and has worked with family dynamics like this. So I've been like, quote unquote, blessed to be able to go through that, and her to be able to like ease my fears.
Joseph, you're muted.
Yeah.
I hit the space bar and it didn't do anything.
Oh no.
I sometimes have to hit the button. So advocating for myself in the medical setting. So I want to say it was like somewhere between 11 and 14, like right in the early teenage years. My urologist wanted me to do like kind of at the time it was like an experimental surgery. Like it wasn't exactly like known yet. It was for something with my bladder. Like it was supposedly supposed to make your bladder bigger and not spasm as much, but it wasn't something that has been done for. It hadn't been done a lot for one at all, and it hadn't been done really ever on kids. Like not fully grown adults. So I basically told them no. I'm gonna wait till I'm older at least because there's too much risk of it basically. And she kept trying to push it and push it, so I had to basically keep saying no. I don't think it was a good idea. And then next thing I know, I figured this out around 17, 18, maybe even 19, that it kind of flopped the whole like idea of it. Like it wasn't necessarily uh like hurting people, it just wasn't as effective as a lot of like people were saying it was going to be.
Makes sense.
Next question.
Mm-hmm.
What is a way you've had to advocate for yourself in your personal life?
Okay, so everybody grab their 3D glasses and popcorn, and I think I'm going to be starting a Me Too movement here. But basically, so when I was on Emory's campus, I had my wheelchair for the first time, and there was this, like I was gonna get on the bus, and how it works is there's two parts of the bus. So in the front of the bus, there's like an entrance and exit, and then there's one in the middle. And the one in the middle is where the ramp deploys. And I basically I always roll to the front of the shuttle to let the driver know that I'm boarding, because, sometimes they don't care to let disabled people on board. And I wanted to be sure that I got on that bus. And I went up to her, and she looked at me and she goes, "Are you going to be riding this bus?" I'm like, yeah. And she's like, she did a face palm and she was like, "Good Lord." And I went around to the middle of the shuttle where the ramp deployed, and she went to go try to deploy it with a switch, and she couldn't. And she's like, "It ain't working." So she went to, she went to go step off the bus to get someone that knew what they were doing, and the person was trying to help her out, and they finally got down the ramp, but then she couldn't get the seats up. Like this driver that said good Lord, she like tried once to get the seat up but couldn't do it and yelled that it wasn't working. And the helper finally got the seats up, and then I was actually like, I got on, and then as they were trying to get me like strapped in and stuff, there was like a screaming match that resulted in between both the drivers, and I was in the middle, and I was like, moo. But basically now, after that whole incident, the bus driver apologized to me profusely, but this isn't the first time that has happened. And basically, I had to email the Department of Transportation, and I had asked them, like, hey, you need to be made aware of this. I let them know the time. I let them know what happened, who the bus driver was. I couldn't remember the helper's name, but I praised her because good Lord, she kept it calm throughout all this. And also, so I'll have my backpack for a second, but I have a copy of Emory's like affirmative action and discrimination policy for the shuttles. I printed it off, laminated it, it's in my backpack. So if I ever get discriminated against again, I have it. But the Department of Transportation got back to me and they said, hey, I just want to let you know that, we have a transportation meeting next month, and that's something I'm going to bring up. And the next time I went back on campus, it was night and day difference, and everyone was friendly and willing to help me. So again, like I mentioned earlier, it doesn't matter if you're 2 or 92, you can still make a difference.
A way I've advocated for myself in my personal life was in school. Every time I get a new teacher, I said this in the last panel, but I explained that I have executive dysfunction and that it affects my life greatly, and that I sometimes need a little extra help, but I'm just looking for the right to learn like every other student. I always make it clear that I just need a little extra help because I can learn like every other student. And I've had teachers before who don't want to give me accommodations, who don't want to explain, and then would get upset with me when I had very clearly said, I can't do this unless you give me help. Like, it cannot happen. And after that, the teacher's like, okay, I get it. I get it. And in my personal life, a lot of that happens. Joseph?
So to piggyback off of what she said, even in a work setting, like she was saying with the school setting, like I have to have, like I've had jobs where they have made like lists for me to specifically go by that are a little bit more detailed than like a quote unquote normal person would need, just because I do need that extra little bit of help in, like she was saying, executive functioning. So like it's got to be more step by step. So like, do this, then do this, then do this, instead of just telling me a list of things to do and me expecting to figure out a way to do all those things in the correct order.
So the last question we have before we take questions from anyone is, what are you guys most excited for in your meetings tomorrow?
I could start. So I'm really excited because like, I don't know if y'all know, and some of y'all probably do, but I go up to Hershey for spina bifida clinic. But like the thing is that I have to go up to Hershey every year because fact, it is illegal for any doctor to practice in a state that they're not licensed to practice in. And as a result, my Hershey doctors are not licensed to practice in the state of Georgia, so I have to go up. And the thing is that there are little extra costs with having to go up that could be saved from a virtual visit. So, like, for instance, I wouldn't have to pay for hotel rooms out of pocket. I wouldn't have to pay for my travel expenses out of pocket. I wouldn't have to pay for any like meals or to entertain myself, and with this given funding that we're going to have, it'll hopefully increase our number stance, and it'll hopefully help us be able to do virtual visits. Because I feel like even though I don't have Medicaid, I feel like there are a lot of gaps in like our healthcare system that need to be fixed because it wasn't designed for like us in mind. Does anyone else? Joseph, Shoshana, Charlotte.
I'm just excited to hopefully get an increase, and
Yeah.
yeah, I every year we keep pushing, and this year I just want to keep pushing and keep going.
Mhm.
And I know we've got in my group a mix of experienced people and new people, and so I'm excited to show the new people and also to
It
have a
is.
good group with lots of people who I know will be amazing advocates.
That's what I was gonna say too. And my group is a lot bigger than it normally is this year, but I do have a couple people that I've worked with before, so I'm hoping it turns out really good because, we can teach the new people that are in what we've kind of learned and everything. Like even with the breakout room meetings, we already kind of talked about, you know, different things that different people, you know, like to hear and don't really care much to hear that type of thing. And there was a couple of us that kind of figured that out already just by having the experience before.
I'll go ahead and take you guys through the questions and the comments. So great job, guys.
I will,
Um,
I don't mean to interrupt, but I will
no,
say
you're fine.
the questions and stuff, if you want somebody specific to ask, like if you want someone specific to answer your question, just please put it in there, because otherwise we're not going to know.
Good thing, good thing.
Yeah.
All right. AJ asks, what or who helped to encourage you to become an advocate, especially within the SBA?
Okay, so I'm assuming it's for me, but I could be wrong. But I accidentally got myself into this position, and to be honest, I am completely okay with it. But I'm with the Spina Bifida Association of Georgia, Tennessee, because I live in Georgia and that's my chapter. And I'm an adult advisory board member for their chapter. And basically, um, the Spina Bifida Association, in case if you didn't know, they run a Spina Bifida Culta group. And I was on the group, and the moderator had asked if there was like any events that we'd like to see in person or virtually. And I had said, like, not to be rude, I private messaged her, but I'm like, not to be rude, but with the Georgia Tennessee chapter, we don't do much. And I knew that we had merged during Corona, but she gave me this like long spiel about because they merged, they have to find all new people because people left, blah, blah, blah. And she said, actually, I had taken a look at your work and I was going to ask if you wanted to become an adult advisory board member, but I, you know, I was going to ask you if you wanted to become an adult advisory board member for our chapter. I just kept on forgetting to ask. And she asked me if I'd be interested, and I said yes. So I had basically been working with them since like January or February of last year. And I absolutely love my job, and I love being able to like help out other people. And me, as well as the rest of my like, people that I'm on board with that are actually in here. I know like Gage is in here and stuff. He's our like director for our chapter, but he we're working really hard to bring informative, educational, and fun programming for everyone in the Georgia Tennessee chapter, and hopefully it could be modeled into other chapters as well.
I can
That's
also
great,
answer.
Chloe. Yeah,
Thank-
go ahead, Shoshana.
There's a lot of people in the spina bifida community. I think that a big thing for me was during my first Teal on the Hill, there was like a big projector and a big screen, and we watched the video of Donna Jones testifying to a congressional committee, I believe it was. And I looked at that video and I said, I want to do that. I want to do something like that. And by the age of 17, me and Charlotte are now in the congressional record talking about transitioning with spina bifida. You're muted, Char.
Yeah.
Of course I am. Like Donna is huge for a lot of us, and I know she knows when questions like this come up, we're gonna call her out.
Yes.
Because if you haven't gotten a chance to get to know Donna Jones, you should. And go watch her testimony, congressional testimony, because it was amazing. And I think so. Got to meet Donna at my very first Teal on the Hill. I read more recently. I've met Will Dickey, and then he and Donna are like two powerhouses in the community, and so I know that there are two big names, and then there's a whole bunch of other people too, that I know that Shoshana and I both look up to as
We
the
have
generation
a
behind.
nice little community.
Um, um,
We have a question from Mike. What advice would you give a parent if they have an older teen who doesn't want to advocate this way and thinks it's not important?
Um,
Can you repeat that question? It kind of broke out for me a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. What advice would you give a parent if they have an older teen who doesn't want to advocate this way and thinks it's not important?
I would tell them for sure that every voice counts, because if you have a lot of people thinking, oh, it doesn't matter, oh, it doesn't matter, then you're going to have a lot of people not trying to advocate. But if you have a lot of people saying, my voice counts, you're going to have a bunch of voices saying the same thing. And then maybe they'd be like, oh, so many people are saying this, maybe we should do something about it.
Mhm.
I would show them proof that people advocating really does help, and that it gives you this sense of fulfillment, I think.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of things that can go into it. So like, first off, you have to take a look at you yourself as a parent and how you handle your child's disability. If you handle it in a negative light, then obviously their kid's not going to want to advocate. And if you don't build the foundation of being a good parent and being like, hey, let's go, if you feel comfortable, let's go advocate here. Let's, oh, you're getting a wheelchair. That's great. Or, you need more physical therapy, that's fine. Or your body hurts, how can I help you? Do you want me to run you a bath with some Epsom salts? But the more supportive you are and the more encouraging you are, the more likely they're going to want to advocate for themselves. Also, another thing is I didn't have the most supportive people in my life growing up. And then, but when I met other people that were disabled like me, it was a total game changer for not only my self-esteem, but my self-confidence. And I was in like resource classes, which was a type of special needs setting in school. And no one in my classes had, spina bifida. There are some people that had some of my other disabilities, but, no one else had spina bifida. And to be honest, it felt lonely and isolating, especially if you can't, when you didn't have that support growing up of, being able to see the doctors and being able and my voice not being heard, it was just really rough. But again, I would encourage all that kind of stuff first, and hopefully that'll show that it really matters. But I'm all about getting to the root cause first and then working your way up from there. And I think it's a whole person approach. I think everybody has to be on board. It's not just a teen thing. You have to look at the parents, you have to look at your doctors and see like how supportive they're being, etc.
I agree.
100% agree with what you were saying.
Thank you.
Well, if there are no more questions, I just want to say thank you to these great speakers. You guys are the voice on the future of SBA. So thank you guys.
And then we got the next generation behind us.
Yeah.
I already
Yep.
know some names of that generation that will hopefully be joining us soon.
Yeah.
It's great.
If anyone has teenagers they'd like to start advocating, send them to me
Probably-
and Charlotte. We will help.
Probably
We can
join
replace
us.
ourselves.
I know you're on here.
Awesome. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. As an elder statesman of this village, it makes me very, very happy to see you guys doing well. I passionately call a lot of you my young Padawans, and congratulations to Charlotte and Shoshana. Very well deserved. Thank you guys so much.